Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome to our Genesis class live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center, and I'm just so excited. We got our friend Scotty Helton here today. Yeah, Rabbi, I just don't want to sit in a class with those guys. Not interested. I've had too many arguments and fights with them, and yeah, it's just no fun, and sucks all the joy out of the room. Anyways, that's my feeling on the matter, but we're going to turn the class over to you, Rabbi Goldberg, and I'll try to be quiet and let you take it from here.
Okay, excellent. So first of all, good evening, everybody. Good evening from Jerusalem. Good to see you all. Really nice to see also Scotty, and we have also Jelena, right? Hi, Jelena. Good to see you also. And Bart, everybody, Angela, Mike and Angela from England. Hey. And Lara, from South Africa also, buyers. Good evening, everybody. So let me start with addressing something, and I understand you done very well, very good. Okay, I'll say it like that. The truth is that there are people that we are going inside to the room, and we're feeling after that it is draining us, like the whale that is losing the water and it's supposed to have a bit of time for themselves, with ourselves. And there are people or some meetings that when we're meeting one with each other, it's like the lights, the candles, that two candles can bring light one to each other. No one is losing anything, and it's more lights. So there are meetings like that, and there are meetings like that. And I agree with you.
Rabbi, I just, for years, they have been fighting with Noahides, just absolutely fighting with Noahides.
Yeah, enough. Listen good, because we started the meeting also with a bit of a tent. Scotty will say it here. But after that, with the things that we may continue on. And one of the most important things that we in the Noahide in Jerusalem, we want to do, is that people will start to realize that we have here a full picture where everyone have his, I will say, side that is bringing the crown, okay, with a lot of diamonds. And each one of us is a diamond that is together, we have a full crown. Each one of us is working in different places, in different, I will say, in different timing of the people in this journey towards the Noahide. And when people realize that, things are getting much more, with more, I will say, we have more possibility of working together with the synergy of, uplifting ourselves. And this is what happened there. Okay, in the beginning it wasn't
Rabbi,
so
yeah, I understand you have pure motives for sure, and just from my vantage point, when you're dealing with a seedling, and it's fragile and young, and they're just new to being B'nai Noach, and then they get blasted. I mean, I just had an entire group of Jewish people when I first had met these guys. An entire group of Jewish people just stay away from them, and so I did. I mean, they were publicly renounced by a bundle of rabbis, and so yeah.
I know that it will take time, but hopefully we will manage to bring, I know that a lot of people also of the Noahide, especially in the United States, it's a bit more hard, but at the end we will manage and everybody will do it together, because we can't promote the unity of God when we are all of us fighting together, one with each other. If we want to speak about the unity of God, we must find the way of working together. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be in one day, but we are working on this, and hopefully we will manage, with the help of God.
Yeah, I've extended olive branches a few times, only, to be bitten at. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
okay.
I mean, people's actions have repercussions, and yeah.
This is true. Okay, now it's a bit related to the things that we're learning, and I want to go back to Genesis. Long time we didn't learn Genesis. One of the reasons, maybe I think the main reason for that, is that we came to the chapters where it is more dealing with the Hebrew people. Okay, until Jacob is meeting Laban, until this point, we have all the time, we are learning, I will say, the uniqueness of the Hebrew people and what they are giving to the world. But from the moment that Jacob is coming towards Laban and he is staying there, now we're starting to speak also about ugly things inside the Hebrew family. And it was hard for me. Therefore, I took a bit of a break and I've learned it again, and I sat down with this again. And we are going to learn a few things. Some of them are more, I will say, kind and nice, and some of them a bit hard. And this is one of the most, I think, beauty things of the Bible, that it's not only showing the glory side of the human, it's also showing hard things. Okay, after all, we are all people. And as people, we must admit that from time to time, we're also doing sins, or we also not behaving correctly, and we need to repair that. We need to do repentance. And now, after all of this opening, we will start to learn inside.
Hopefully everybody read Genesis chapter 31 was the homework.
Yes, this was the homework. But I want to give a bit of before that, okay? We will go also
Background,
to
sure.
one, but we'll give a bit of a backup. Those are 3 chapters. The 3 chapters before that are they're very complicated chapters. We're not going to go inside to every verse, but we are going to speak a bit about those things. But for that, I need to remind a few things that we've learned, I think 2 or 3 months ago. The first one that I want to speak, we have, how many kids do we have to Rebecca and Isaac? How many kids do we have for them? Jacob and Esau, they were twins, right? How many kids? Rebecca had a brother, his name is Laban, okay, Lavan, what you call. He also had only 2 daughters, right? Rachel and Leah. And we've learned already that everybody said, and everybody understood, that the oldest one is for Esau, and the youngest one is for Jacob. Remember that we spoke about this? And then the most surprising things, that when Jacob is replacing Esau, he's becoming the oldest. He's buying this thing of becoming an the elder one, the responsibility of the elder one. I will show this again in the chapters. Forgive me for a moment. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, we saw this here. This we've learned. One before that, I'm sorry. We see that Jacob is replacing Esau. Here it is. Please read verse number 31, or 30 and 31, okay?
30. And Esau said to Jacob, pour into me some of this red pottage, for I am faint. He was therefore named Edom. And Jacob said, sell me as of this day your birthright. Okay, so and he's selling it. Okay, and he says to himself, I'm going to die. Have no reason to keep this birthright. And he's selling this birthright. And after that, this is chapter 25. If we jump into chapter 27, he is also getting the blessing instead of Esau. This is why Esau is also very angry with him. So when Jacob is replacing Esau, he is also replacing him by taking Leah, okay, the eldest one. After all, even though he really liked also Rachel, he liked Rachel very much. He liked Rachel even more than he liked Leah, but he is taking both of them. Why he is taking both of them? Because he's taking those 2 missions, the mission of Esau and the mission of Jacob. We've learned it already that Jacob is more in a spiritual world
Esau is more in this world. Isaac thought that both of them together will build up the Israel nation, but from all sorts of reasons, and also because of the prophecy that Rebecca got from God, she knew that only Jacob is going to build up the nation of Israel, and Jacob is supposed to move himself from becoming only Jacob to become also,
Israel.
what is the second name?
Israel.
Israel. So Israel is getting married with Leah, and Jacob is getting married with Rachel. Everything is clear now? This is the most surprising things. And the most surprising thing is that even though he got Leah, he also accepted to get Rachel. So he's taking both of them. He's taking both his wives, and now he is, I would say, completely occupied everything of Esau. He occupied his birthright, he occupied his blessings, and he also occupied his wife. Everything is clear. I hope I'm saying clear things. Till now, what we've learned that Jacob is managing to occupy all of this. So we wanted to learn chapter 31, but before that, we need to see for a moment how he is building the Israel nation. So we'll look on this for a moment and we will see something. I need to go here. I want to say that because also Jacob not only had two wives, he also had two of the servants of his wife. Okay, so he had four wives, basically, four wives. And we have with this 12 tribes, or 12 kids. So basically you have four firstborn kids, right? Rachel have a firstborn, his name is Joseph. Leah have the firstborn, his name is Reuben. And then we have also Zilpah and Milcah. Both of them also have firstborn, okay? So this is a very complicated family where we have four firstborns. Let's learn a bit the first one that is getting, that suddenly is being, the firstborn is Reuben. What exactly is the meaning of this name? In Hebrew, Reuben, okay? In Hebrew it says, and I want to show this also in the Talmud, just a moment. Let me find it, I'm sorry, I didn't prepare this. Reuben is, in Hebrew, is two words, Reuben. Look, I have a son, okay? This is what it says as a beginning. But our sages, they have a very interesting, I will call it a understanding of what's happening there, okay? Just let me find it exactly. Here it is. Bothering me here, sorry. Oh, excellent. It's already in English, just a moment. It's at the end of this page, just a moment. Oh, here it is.
Would you like me to read it, Rabbi?
Yes, from here. You see, Rabbi Lazar.
Rabbi Elazar said, Reuben's name should be considered a prophecy by Leah. As Leah said, see, Reu, the difference between my son Benai and the son of my father-in-law, Esau, son of Isaac, even though Esau knowingly sold his birthright to his brother Jacob, as it is written, and he sold his birthright to Jacob, from Genesis 25:33. Nonetheless, behold what is written about him, and Jacob hated Esau, from Genesis 27:41.
Esau hated Jacob.
Or Esau hated Jacob, Genesis 27:41. Esau was not only angry over Isaac's blessing, but he was angry about another matter as well, as it is written, and he said, is he not rightly named Jacob, for he has supplanted me twice? He took my birthright, and behold, now he has taken my blessing, from Genesis 27:36. Despite having sold his birthright, he refused to relinquish it.
While my son,
Well, my son Reuben, even though Joseph took his birthright from him by force, as it is written, and the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, for he was the firstborn, but since he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph, the sons of Israel. 1 Chronicles 5:1. Nevertheless, he was not jealous of him, as it is written, when Joseph's brothers sought to kill him. And Reuben heard, and he saved him from their hands, saying, let us not take his life, from Genesis 37:21.
well, this is enough. This is enough. So what we see, Reuben, look on my son. And my son, even though he is a firstborn, and he have all the reasons to be jealous and to hate Joseph, and to find the time where they want to kill Joseph, that he will kill him, he is not hating Joseph, and he is trying to save him and to bring him back to his father Jacob. If we will compare this contrarily to Esau, who sold his firstborn and was very angry with Jacob and tried to kill him. So first of all, we see, the first thing that we see here is that the firstborn is, I will say, behaving differently. But this is not still yet giving the, I will say, the sign to Jacob to leave the exile and to come back to Israel. When does Jacob understand that this is a time to stand up and to go back to Israel? This is where Joseph is getting, in this world. And we have here all the story with everything else. And we need to realize that it's coming mainly because Jacob really loves his wives. There is a love there inside in this family. So one of the things that is happening, just a moment, let me find it. Read verses 22, 23, 24, please. Till 25 even, with 25.
22, and God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and he opened her womb. 23, and she conceived and bore a son, and she said, God has taken away my reproach. So she named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord grant me yet another son. 25, it came to pass when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, send me away, and I will go to my place and to my land.
This is enough. What we see here, when Rachel is giving birth to Joseph, this is where Jacob is saying, I can go back home. What is the secret here? Now let's think for a moment. The word Joseph in Hebrew, the meaning of this word is, I will get something else, something more than what I had. God will give me blessing, more blessing. Okay, more. The word Joseph is more. I want more and more. And this is a firstborn, and he is a firstborn, okay, that is named for his next brother. God will give me more son. His name is after his next brother, not by himself. All of the firstborn that we saw till now, Esau, Ishmael, whatever it is, whatever we saw, always were for themselves. Suddenly now we see someone that is being coming to this world, and he is named not for himself, but for asking and giving blessing for the next one that will come. This is where Jacob is saying, okay, now I have a family that it's not only hinting that they're going to love one each other, it's also saying loud and clear, this one was born for the next one, not for himself. So this is the time. I need to build up the nation in Israel. I need to build up my nation in Israel. This is what's happening here with Jacob. Now, there's another very important thing that we need to see, and we need to realize, because it will reflect later on what's happening there inside. I think that we explained this already more than once, but because we have new people here in the class, I will say this again. So I'm sorry if I'm boring some, but we need to repeat again things that we've learned. there are a few ways how God is appearing in front of us. Now, each time we are naming him differently. It's very important. In the Hebrew tradition, there's different ways how to speak about God and how he is appearing in front of us. Okay? It's like, for a moment, if you will think about this, when you see someone, the king with all of the full, I will say, clothings and crown, whatever it is, and when you see the king when he's going to the bathroom. So those are two different, I will say, appearance in front of us. And even though you're saying in both times that he is a king, but in one way, he's, with the full presency, with all of the glory, and with the other way, he's on, as a human being in front of us. So God also have a few ways, but there are two main things, I will call it like that. And the two main things is starting basically in chapter 1. In chapter 1, and chapter 1 is showing how God created the world. And then we say all the time, we have 32 times in this chapter 1, the word Elohim, okay? Elohim is, I will say, when God is appearing in front of us in the laws of nature. The laws of nature is Elohim. In the numeric number, okay, of the word Elohim and the word nature in Hebrew, it's the same numeric number, okay? It's the same value. And you can see it, you see, again, Vayomer Elohim, again, the same word, you see, Vayar Elohim, Vayikra Elohim, you see? Every time here it says Elohim, the word Elohim. Again, Elohim, you will see it 32 times, you will find it here. When God is creating the nature, or when God is appearing in front of us through the nature, through the laws of nature, his name is Elohim. When God is appearing in front of us with a free will, who decided to create the nature, this is where he will appear in front of us with the word, not only Elohim, but also with the words Yud Kei Vav Kei. You all know about this Edei Yehovah. I'm sure that you've heard about this cult, Edei Yehovah, part of the Christian ideology. Okay, it's coming from here, from this word, Yud Kei Vav Kei. This is showing the free will. God decided to create the nature. God decided to put the laws of nature here, and it's functioning in the exact way all the time, all the years. This is a different appearance of God, the appearance that is creating the nature, the nature. Why I'm saying this? Because if you will look for a moment, let's jump back to again, we are just before the chapter that we're going to read, okay? When we're going for a moment and we see what is the naming, okay, that the kids of Leah was being called. So we will see them, it's going like that. Sorry, I went in the wrong way. Sorry. Let's look for a moment. Please read verse number 32.
32, and Leah conceived and bore a son, and she named him Reuben, for she said, because the Lord has seen my affliction, for now my husband will love me.
Fair enough. And we spoke about Reuben, the difference, okay, look at the difference between my son and my brother-in-law. And if we will look for a moment in verse number 32, what is the name that is being used here? Yud Kei Vav Kei, okay? The name that is creating the nature, creating everything here. Okay, let's go to 33, please.
33, and she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, since the Lord has heard that I am hated, he gave me this one too. So she named him Simeon.
I must say, as a note, I'm hated if I'm comparing myself to Rachel. Jacob loved both of them. But again, it's more important for me to look for a moment in 32. What is the name that is being referred, named God's name, who is being referred to this specific name? Again, we're saying Yud K Vav K, okay? The bigger name, the name that is creating everything, also the nature. Let's jump for a moment and read 35.
35. And she conceived again and bore a son. And she said, this time I will thank the Lord. Therefore she named him Judah. And then she stopped bearing.
First of all, we have again, she is going to thank Odeh at Yud K Vav K. Again, you see the same thing. And more interesting, this name, if you will look good, you will see that it's the same name also with the word or with the letter, the fourth letter that we have, D, okay? The D letter that we have that is putting inside the big name. Basically, it's not only hinting for the name of God, what we call here in English the Lord, the upper name, or the bigger name, it's also some sort of a thankfulness. It's together those two things. So we're seeing that Leah kids were born under the name of the big name. Let's look for a moment what is happening with the names of Rachel, okay? She is not giving birth, okay? And she's very jealous. You can read it in verse number 1. Please read verse number 1.
And Rachel saw that she had not borne any children to Jacob, and Rachel envied her sister, and she said to Jacob, give me children, and if not, I am dead.
Okay, I have no continuous, so I'm dead. And she is demanding kids, and she can't give birth, so she is giving, please read verse number 3. She's giving her maidservant, please.
3. So she said, here is my maidservant Bilhah. Come to her, and she will bear children on my knees, so that I too will be built up from her.
Fair enough. And she is giving birth. Okay, she conceived, and she's giving. She's bore Jacob's son. And please read verse number 6.
6. And Rachel said, God has judged me, and he has also hearkened to my voice, and has given me a son. So she named him Dan.
What name are we using here? Please look in the Hebrew. This is going back to the name that we have in chapter 1 of Genesis, Elohim. Not the big name, the smallest name. You see? And also in the second son. Please read verse number 7.
7. And Bilhah, Rachel's maidservant, conceived again and bore Jacob a second son.
And she's also naming him. Okay, his name is Naphtali.
Right.
But again, with what name are we using here? Under what I will say umbrella is he giving birth? The name Elohim again. And if we will go back to Joseph, let's jump away, okay, to Joseph when he is getting birth, okay? Please read number 23.
23. And she conceived and bore a son, and she said, God has taken away my reproach.
Asaf Elohim, you see? Joseph. She named him Joseph, okay? And with the prize or with the pray to Yud K Vav K, to the main God that will give her another son. Now, what is the difference between those two? We need to understand. Joseph, and all of this was only an opening for the next chapter. Okay, I hope it's fine enough. Basically, we need to understand that the Hebrew nation have 12 tribes. Okay, now there is, I will say, the side of the Hebrew nation that is related with the rest of the world, and there is a side of the Hebrew nation that is pushing upwards to the next stage. to God. Okay, the nation is a full nation. It's not one. It's not separated, and part of it is related with the rest of the world, and part of it is pushing upwards. This world is being built up through the laws of nature. Joseph, that we will meet him again as the king of Egypt. In those days, Egypt was the main part of the world. Okay, it's like the United States of today. I'm sorry, Angela and Mike. I'm sorry. The United States of today. Okay, the most important empire today, or maybe the Chinese. I don't know. Who knows? Today it's a big fight between those two. But it was one of the biggest. By the way, in those days, we had the Egypt on one side, and we had also the Babylon on the other side. Okay, just like we have today, we have the United Nations on one side, and we have the Chinese on the other side. Joseph is going to be the kingdom or the king of this nation. He knows 70 languages. He is the liaison. He is a connection between the Hebrew nation and the rest of the world. And the whole of the world is under the construction of the laws of nature. This is one side of the Hebrew nation. There's another side of the Hebrew nation. The other side of the Hebrew nation is related with God who created this world. And we are trying to move the world from this side to the other side. Therefore, we have, I will say, few faces inside the Hebrew nation. Now we're starting to realize why it's so difficult to live together, why we have so much contradictions and, I will say, debates inside the Hebrew nation. By the way, how do we know that the Noahide world movement is managing? Because there's also fights inside the Noahide world movement. It's, you got conjunction from the Hebrew nation. The Hebrew nation is fighting, so you're also fighting. It's okay. It's normal. I'm joking. It's we're not supposed to fight. Not in the Hebrew nation and not in the rest of the world. Okay, but mainly we need to realize how the Hebrew nation is being built up, and the Hebrew nation is having, I will say, some sort of a structure inside, and there will be all the time this tent, I will say, this hard part between the Judah, who is, I will say, the internal side of the Hebrew nation, and Jacob, who is leading the outside. We see this big tent, especially with the dream of Joseph. Let's see for a moment the dream of Joseph, and then we'll go back to the chapter that we want to learn. We'll start to learn the chapter that is important for us. If we're jumping a bit to the dream of Joseph, sorry. And this one, next one. Okay, please read verse number 1. We're in chapter 37. Please read verse number 1 for a moment.
1. Jacob dwelt in the land of his father's sojournings in the land of Canaan.
And here we have Joseph is 17 years old, and Israel loves him more than the others. And now look for a moment what exactly his dream. Let's read 6, 7, and 8.
6. And he said to them, Listen now to this dream which I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves encircled it and prostrated themselves to my sheaf. So his brothers said to him, Will you reign over us, or will you govern us? And they continued further to hate him on account of his dreams and on account of his words.
So we have an interesting situation where they are shepherds. Suddenly he's telling them, no, we're going to work not as shepherds like Abel, but we're going to become like Cain, to work in the grounds and to have these sheaves, and we're going to worship through the ground, just like Cain. And more than that, I'm going to govern you. Those are two things that his brothers really, they have, we are shepherds of the world, and don't think that your way is going to govern us. We're going to govern you. Okay? It's continuing on. We need to understand the hidden the hidden words that is coming inside this thing. Now we started to see this also through the word of the name of God that is appearing when they're getting born. Okay, the difference between Yud Kei Vav Kei, where God is governing everything, also creating this world and the laws of nature, and those who are under the laws of nature and getting related with the rest of the world. So now we have, I will say, the opening. After this point where Jacob sees that the son, Joseph, that the meaning of this is, I will have another son. The last son, where exactly is going to get born? In what place in the world? Who knows? Benjamin. Who knows? Who remember where Benjamin is going to get born? A quiz of the Bible. Benjamin is number 12. Where exactly is going to get born?
In Israel?
In Israel. He is the only one. I will call him the teenage, the youngest, the future of the family. And he is the only one who is going to get born in Israel. Now you're starting to realize why there is a fight. Between whom? Between Joseph and Judah. Who is going to control with whom Benjamin is going to be? He's going to be with Judah, or he's going to be with Joseph. Joseph is demanding them to bring Benjamin with him. Everybody knows that with the one that Benjamin will stay, the future of the Hebrew nation will continue. Judah wants that Benjamin will be with him, and he's promising his father, he's doing everything that Benjamin will come back. He is even willing to stay as a servant in this king, horrible king, Joseph. He doesn't know that this is Joseph, but that Benjamin will go back to his father. And Joseph is saying, no, I want Benjamin with me. This is the future of the Hebrew nation. Till the end of history, we see that. The 10 tribes with Joseph got vanished in the world. And Judah, that stayed with Benjamin, came back to the Hebrew land in the 75 years ago. Okay? So, but we're starting to understand what is happening here with this fight or with those things of this Hebrew nation, and with the side that have the relation with the rest of the world, and the side that is a bit oligarch, okay, by themselves without relation with the world. Now let's look for a moment and let's start to learn chapter 31. All of this was, I will say, the foundation of this thing. So please, let's read verses 1 to 3, please, Dan.
All right, chapter 31. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken all that belonged to our father, and from what belonged to our father he has amassed this entire fortune. 2. And Jacob saw Laban's countenance, that he was not disposed toward him as he had been yesterday and the day before. 3. And the Lord said to Jacob, Return to the land of your forefathers and to your birthplace, and I will be with you.
Now we have 3 reasons why Jacob is supposed to leave Laban, his father-in-law, okay, the grandfather of his kids. There are 3 reasons, okay, as we see this. First of all, the hateness of his, how do you call it in English? Not nephews, the brothers of his wife. How do you call it in English? I forgot the name of this relation.
The cousins.
It's not the cousins. They are the brothers of Rachel and Leah. The brothers-in-law. Oh, okay.
Brothers-in-law, yes.
Brothers-in-law. First of all, he says that the brothers-in-law starting to hate. It's a bit of a warning, right? Being number 1. Then he says in verse number 2 that his father-in-law is not with the same face, is not with the joy like always. Something they got a bit, different. Being number 2. And then God is speaking with him and telling him, go back to your birthday place. I will be with you there. Being number 3. What each one of us would have done straight ahead, pack everything, go on the airplane, and go back to Israel, right? Everybody in the family is hating me. God is asking me to go back. So the next step that I'm going to do, let's go back to Israel, right? Unfortunately, we saw in German last century that even though people saw those things, nobody came back, right? Fair enough. But there is something very weird here. So let's read for a moment. Now we need to read 8 verses, okay? From 4 till, it's more than 8. Until 14, okay? And you need to tell me what is happening in those verses from 4 to 14, please. It's almost 10 verses, please.
Okay, from verse 14.
From 4 to 14.
4 to 14. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flocks, and he said to them, I see your father's countenance, that he is not disposed towards me as he was yesterday and the day before. But the God of my father was with me. 6. And you know that with all my might I served your father. But your father mocked me and changed my wages 10 times, but God did not permit him to harm me. 8. If he would say thus, speckled ones shall be your wages, all the animals would bear speckled ones. And if he would say thus, ringed ones shall be your wages, all the animals would bear ringed ones. 9. Can you scroll up? Yeah. Thus God separated your father's livestock and gave it to me. And it came to pass at the time the animals came into heat, that I lifted my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the he-goats that mounted the animals were ringed, speckled, and striped. And an angel of God said to me in a dream, Jacob, and I said, Here I am. And he said, Now lift your eyes and see that all the he-goats mounting the animals are ringed, speckled, and striped, for I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a monument, where you pronounced to me a vow. Now arise, go forth from this land, and return to the land of your birth.
That's enough. That's enough. Now I'm asking you what I will say. How do you call all of those verses? 9 verses. What exactly Jacob is trying to do here? He is speaking with his wives, right? What exactly is trying to do?
He's explaining why he should leave.
He's explaining, but he's doing something even one step ahead from explaining, not only explaining. Yes, Scotty. But we can't hear. Yes.
Are you talking about in the dream that was given to him, how that these offspring of the sheep would be? Is that what you're?
The dream is very important, but it's also part of something bigger that he is trying to do. He's saying this dream to his wives, right? So what exactly is he trying to do? It's very simple.
I'm going to guess and say that he's given them the explanation of how to.
Not how, why?
Why? Okay, I'll let you pick it right there.
Why he is supposed to go to Israel, but he is trying to convince his wives. He is convincing them. He is explaining to them. I had a dream. My father-in-law, your father is not with the same face. He is against us. Your brothers is against us. God told me to go back. He's convincing them with every part of weapon that he have to convince them, right? Now, my question is very simple. If God will appear in front of me and tell me, do this and do that, okay? So I will go and convince my wife that I need to do that? What is happening here?
Rabbi, I've got a comment on YouTube. Robin is saying it proves that Hashem has in fact spoken. He's trying to prove to his wives.
He's trying to prove his wife that Hashem spoke with him. Fair enough. So he's convincing them. So we're going back to the same point. God said to him, go back to your homeland, right, to your birthplace. And he, instead of taking everything, packing everything, telling them, this is it, we're going, he's convincing them that he must go back. Look, now let's read 14 and 15, please.
14, and Rachel and Leah replied and said to him, do we still have a share or an inheritance in our father's house? Are we not considered by him as strangers, for he sold us and also consumed our money?
They got convinced. Fair enough. They got convinced. They said to him, yeah, you're right, let's go. But I don't understand, the principle here. God is saying to him, take everything and go away. And he sees around with himself that everything is not like the same, not like yesterday. And instead of taking his packages, his wives and everything and running away, he's starting to convince them to go. We see something similar with Moses. Let me show you. Okay. So I want to, you will stay with I said things without. Let's go to see something very similar with Moses. Exodus chapter 5. No, it's chapter 4, sorry. Oh, a moment, we'll see. God is sitting down with Moses for 7 days in Mount Sinai and convincing him to go and let the Hebrew people to go out from Egypt. Okay, 7 days, not 1 day, 7 days. Look, we see this here. Please read verse number 10, sorry.
Uh, 10. Moses said to the Lord, I beseech you, O Lord, I am not a man of words, neither from yesterday, nor from the day before yesterday, nor from the time you have spoken to your servant, for I am heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue.
He's trying to release himself. I don't want to take this mission. Moses is saying, I don't want to take this mission. And here our sages are saying those were 7 days there that he was, that God was convincing him. God was so upset and angry with Moses. Please look verses 11 and 12.
11, but the Lord said to him, who gave man a mouth, or who makes one dumb or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? 12, so now go, I will be with your mouth, and I will instruct you what you shall speak.
So we have here again a situation where God is convincing Moses to go and to take out the Hebrew people out of Egypt. Okay, fair enough. So what is supposed to be now? That Moses is going back to his home, packing back his wife, his kids, whatever it is, and going to Egypt to do God's mission. Now let's look for a moment. Read verse number 18.
18, Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and he said to him, let me go now and return to my brothers who are in Egypt, and let me see whether they are still alive. So Jethro said to Moses, go in peace.
Why is he asking permission? It's the same problem. Why is he asking permission? Second time. What I want us to learn from here is that this is Rabbi Shmuel Hershler. Just a moment, let me see why. הלו, כן, אני באמצע השיחה פה, כן. זה לא, בלי פסוורד, תשתמש באותו קישור, תוכל להיכנס. אני אנסה לשלוח לך תכף, בסדר? תוך כדי. אני פשוט באמצע השיחה. טוב. Rabbi Hershler. I'm saying the most important things that we need to learn here. Just a moment. I'm sorry that I'm going to close the share screen for a moment. I need to do something here. Just a moment. No, I lost it. Just a moment. Um, sorry. I'm with you. I'm sorry. Just a minute. The most important thing that I want to teach you, or I want to say here, that God, there's a very big confusion, I will say, with a lot of people, with all of this thing that we call spirituality and the words of God with us and everything else. In this world, God wants us, I will say, to be related with the people around us. It's not enough to say, okay, God told me, that's it. We need to speak with the people around us, especially if it's, the spouse side, okay, my wife, my husband, or the people that are around me, my father-in-law, whatever it is, and to get the permission and to do the things in a gentle way with the right way. Now you're starting to realize, and from time to time, we're also getting questions, I decided to become a Noahide, so I want to leave my family. I want to break from my wife. And one of the things that we're saying all the time, we're teaching, we're guiding people. God, don't take the Noahide, belief with the unity of God, okay, God, that is unity, is one God, and break your family and put it on God. Work hard. You can live with your spouse, even though she or he believes still in Jesus. You're not converting to Judaism, so you need to walk away from your family. God is teaching us here in those two giant people, Jacob and then Moses, that the way of behaving is with the way of the right speaking and convincing one each other to behave in the right way. Not to decide, okay, God told me, so I don't care with the relationship that I have with those people around me, and I'm going to break all the system. I'm going to do everything. No, you need to get permission. You need to get permission from your father-in-law, Moses. You need to get permission from your wives, okay? If you want to pack up your family to go back to your birthplace. They were never there in Israel, okay? Rachel and Leah. So you're not supposed to do something like that without, I will say, the right manner and the right relationship. And you need to convince the people that this is this is your dream, this is your drive, this is what you need to do. And this is a very important way how to look on things, and not to say, but I know the truth, everybody's supposed to know, I'm going to push everybody, to knock everybody on the heads, not to speak in the right way. No, it's not working like that. It's not working like that. We saw this twice in this story and another story. And it's even more amazing to think about this for a moment, because for teaching all the halachot, all the way how to behave on Shabbat, it's only hinting inside the Bible. But this thing specific is being loud and clear, written down for 10 or 9 verses. You see, the more important thing for God, God wants us to keep the Shabbat, the Hebrew people. But he is not giving so much wording about this. He is giving the oral Bible to explain to us how to behave on Shabbat. But he is giving a lot more verses and explanation how to behave one with each other in the right manner. Proportion, about life. So we started this chapter. It's not that we didn't start it. Rabbi Hershler is with us. So please, Rabbi Hershler, now it's your turn.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up what the rabbi's talking about in the issue of power of speech. I think this is a universal concept which we all have to really share. One of the problems is that we don't really realize how much violence actually comes out of verbal language when you're not speaking in a way that is sweet and positive and kind. Starting from the very beginning of society with Cain and Abel, at least as it's found in Genesis 4, they were together in the field. What did Cain exactly say to Abel? I don't know, but what he did, I am sure I know what he did. And the only conversation that we have between Noah and his 3 sons, and Noah had his first son when he was 500 years old. So his parenthood started at a pretty late age. The only story in Genesis about Noah speaking to his sons is cursing one of them for misbehaving. I'm not 100% sure that when you convey a violent statement towards your child, that you're bringing them any closer to appreciate who you are, even if you're right. Sometimes I have a feeling that when people speak in that way, it automatically creates a negativity. The portion we're going to read this week, known as Bahalotcha, when the lights were lit of the menorah by Aaron, it's the 3rd portion of Numbers. The end of the portion, Miriam, Moses' sister, has a comment about Moses' wife. Not so clear in the words of the text in Numbers 12, what exactly did she claim about Moses' behavior? But the fact of the matter is that the indicated criticism that she had towards a beloved brother caused the divine to intervene directly in the conversation. And what the divine is saying to her is, my dear daughter, you're not speaking about your brother, because your brother was not appointed by himself. He was appointed by me. And when a person insults indirectly a human being, especially a giant who was appointed by God directly, you're actually insulting God himself. And sometimes I think that if we really have respect to the human race, we're created in the image of God. You remember the first woman in history who had a baby, her name was Eve. And when she gave the name to Cain, she expresses in Hebrew, Kaniti Ishat Hashem, which means I have formed a human being with God. By the way, it's a very noble statement that she said, but that effectively means that we need to have sensitivity towards other people and to speak to them in dignity. Sometimes you don't even know where it comes from. Before I even joined this session this evening, I wrote some extensive thing in translating to English a text which, believe me, is far from ease. And the person appreciated what I did, but the wording was a little bit crude, I would say. And I would have expected, I'm not looking for compliments or whatever, but I think sometimes when you put a lot of time in helping somebody out, translating something which is not an easy text to translate, and you get the feedback of a person who barely has appreciation, which you did 45 hours work for him. I'm not talking money-wise, that wasn't even the issue. You didn't pay for it. But I mean, talking about a living just being reasonable and kind and receptive. It's something that in every culture, in every society, is something that we need to work on, something that we need to improve, our communication skills. What the rabbi mentioned about family problems, that's part of the issue also, because whether you believe in the idea of man from Mars and woman from Venus or whatever, there is definitely a difference in culture and in meaning of speech between genders in certain issues. What in certain issues a man means something and a woman may understand it slightly different. And you have to be careful that what you're saying is understood by the recipient. It's not enough that you mean B. You have to make sure that the person listening to you understands what you mean and what you're saying, because otherwise they may get irritated for the wrong reason. There's no doubt that Miriam did not try to embarrass her brother. And the Bible even mentions that he was the most humble person ever. That's in Numbers 12, verse 3. It doesn't make a difference. The Bible mentions in Leviticus 19 that you're not allowed to curse a deaf person. Why does it highlight a deaf person? The deaf person doesn't get insulted when you curse him. He doesn't even hear what you're saying. The evil is saying what you're saying, whether he hears you or not. How much more so if he hears you and sees it to be counterproductive, negative, not receiving, not appreciating. I mean, I feel that I sometimes sin that I don't thank my wife enough for a meal that she made and she worked for it. Even though you may think after almost 40 years of marriage, it's almost taken for granted, it shouldn't be taken for granted. Every time it's an effort, and every time she does something, and she does it out of love and does it and devotes herself for the time. So what if I'm used to it? I don't think it's something that a person should be used to. Something that every time that's done should be appreciated. And that's just one example of being positive in communication skills. Believe me, in the long run, it saves you a lot of money for family therapy and whatever. If you just try to be positive from the very beginning, it makes life all the difference. And sometimes just adding 1 or 2 words of being kind and receptive is positive. And if you read well, I don't have the time to do it, I don't want to take your time, but if you read well how God penalizes Miriam, he doesn't have patience. He doesn't give her mercy. He doesn't wait for her to pardon. He gives her leprosy immediately for a week without any further delay. And usually God is rather merciful and has patience. But here there was a statement, because when you insult a person, in this case also insult God, and God was indicating to her and mainly to us that there are certain elements in life where you need to relate to immediately, otherwise it's too late. If you insult somebody deeply and you don't think about it in the short term, it's only going to get worse later on. It's much more wise, even if it's a bit embarrassing, to phone the person, to apologize, and to apologize even 5 times. It's still better if you apologize within the first 3 days than when you come 3 months later. You don't know what happens in the meantime. That's my word of advice to you. And after celebrating the revelation in the last 2 days, I think that's something we should appreciate as well. That was probably one of the more powerful messages in Sinai. It's not only not to mention the divine's name in vain, which is the 3rd commandment. Using the divine name in vain is also to embarrass people that God created. I even heard a statement today, which I immediately, in a lecture that I was giving, a person said something which was not towards a Jewish person. And I said to him, excuse me, do you know that the person you're talking about was created by God? Maybe he's different than you. Maybe he thinks different than you. Maybe he's not as educated as you are. But who gives you the right to say something about him? And especially in a generalized statement. We all have to care for other people. I said to him, when I was working overseas for a couple of years, I said, listen, we're in a foreign country. These people are not trying to kill us. They have a different culture and a different way. And we respect them and love them as being created by God. We have to be very careful to be kind with them. When a person wants to attack you, of course, you have to respond with self-defense. But there are many people out there in the world who don't particularly love me, but they don't hate me either. And I have all the reason in the world to try to give them respect. And I hope that it will be also well received. And even if not, we still have to do what's right, even if the other side will not respond accordingly. So thank you for that short time. And let's try to work. I'm first of all talking to myself. Let's first work. I should work on improving my communication skills with all.
Well, thank you so much, Rabbi Hirschler. I really appreciate your words. Definitely. I don't know what it is. I've always had a difficulty subjecting my actions to somebody else's subjective opinion. So, it's one of those things that I have a very hard time with. It just doesn't register with me that, their version of kindness determines how I must act. Rather than say, this is, I try to understand Torah because it helps me act more properly. But the reality is, that's a very, very deep topic, and how it infiltrates into your behavioral thought patterns and how you begin to function. But I always have difficulty subjecting myself to what other people imagine kindness should look like. And I don't know what it is, but I just have a knack of rubbing people the wrong way, and it don't matter what I do. I don't like to get down that path where no matter what I do, they're determining whether my actions are correct or not. I just can't live in that environment where, they're the ones, that get to determine what I intend. And it just seems out of line to me. But, I'm probably way off, but, I have to live with myself, and I try my best to function in a way that is, I like how you said last week, authentic and real. Try to be genuine. Sometimes it comes across a little too harsh or firm. But like I had a massive attack by a bunch of Christians a few weeks back, and the point being, it was over an absolute souring or misunderstanding of words I said when I went to somebody else's house, and it was totally distorted and twisted out of context. I've seen that happen far too often in my life, that people tend to sour what really went on, and I can't live under that degree of oppression as a person and still be me. Any advice?
Well, give you one example just for the sake of it. About 2-3 years ago, I got a phone call at 2:30 in the morning after a day that wasn't easy. Somebody phones me up without prior preparation. Rabbi, my mother just died, and can you please help me get a funeral organized by 5 o'clock in the morning? I didn't sleep that night till 1 a.m. He phones me at 2:30. And now you have to think how to be receptive and kind, and think of bereavement and realize in what state of affair he is. First of all, you forget where you are. Now you're totally focused in trying to help him out in a real situation that is not easy for him. If I wasn't educated in that direction, I don't know if my reaction would be that easy. It took me about 15 seconds at 2:30 a.m. to focus and understand what is expected of me in this circumstance. And just giving you as a notion that the idea is that when you respect someone else, the mirror is right in front of you when you're talking. Today it's so much easier to understand it because I see all of you now on picture, and some of you are about a couple thousand miles away from me. But even if it weren't to be seen face to face, you hear the other person. In English, here, H-E-A-R can also be H-E-R-E. That depends on you, meaning the person listening. Does he feel that the other person is H-E-R-E? Do I feel that he's with me now? I used that once in a sermon. The word here in English works in both directions, both listening and seeing. There's 2 portions in Deuteronomy, one after each other in that relation. The third portion is called Ekev Tishmaun, when you are listening, and the fourth one is called Re'eh, to actually see. My oldest daughter in Hebrew, her name is Re'iyah, sight, vision. When you see somebody in front of you, that's more than just listening. But to try to have that art of listening to a person and thinking that person is with me now at 2:30 in the morning, he lost such a beloved person to him. It'd be absolutely nonsense to say, what are you phoning me at 2:30 in the morning? Of course he should be able to phone me. How else is he going to do it? If I won't show him my trust at this moment, I'm faulting in my position, I'm not listening to him. I don't feel that he's with me right. And I should. I don't know if that helped you. I'm just giving you an idea, real.
One of the interesting things we have in teaching the youngest people here, usually when you're saying some hard thing to someone else, so you're pointing on him and you're saying to him this and this and this and this. But when you're pointing on someone, so you're pointing also 3 fingers on yourself. When you think about this for a moment, you realize that you need to balance the things in the right way. You're pointing 1 finger at him, 1 finger to God, and 3 fingers on yourself. So now we're putting the proportion in the right way. It's much easier.
Yeah, I get that, Rabbi. I just, like I said, I've seen so many spin doctors, is the only way to use the term, where you say something and they literally twist it and distort it into something that's not even remotely close to what you intended. And it's hatred. And I tried to understand, baseless hatred. And obviously when people are polarized on separate sides of an agenda, I can understand that, makes sense. But when people will go out of their way to sour a situation deliberately against somebody, cancel culture, I can't, it makes it's so malicious.
100%.
Fair enough. Okay. Anybody?
Can I say something too?
Yes, please.
I can fully relate with what Dan says, because you have to realize that people like us, when we leave a religion like Christianity, it's almost like you turn from an angel to a devil. People discommunicate you immediately. I was thrown out of Bible studies. People told me that because I now believe in a different God than they do, because they worship Yeshua as their Messiah and their God. So it's tricky, and sometimes it really happens that you say something to these people in a good way, trying to explain to them what is going on in your life at this moment, and they just bombard you with these verses from the New Testament that says you are lost. Yeah, you are lost. You going to hell, by the way, and we don't want anything to do with you. So how do you respond to that kind of criticism as an ex-Christian? How do you respond with empathy? Because these days, what I do is I say, I know you mean very well to reintroduce me to Yeshua, because most of these people, they do it because they really feel you are lost, and there's nothing they can do to help you. So I respond mostly with, I see that you care for me. I see that but I cannot go back to those things. I can't. Well, after what I found out as true, I cannot do that. But I would like your input, Rabbi. How do you deal with things like that when people torture you, lason hara on the biggest possible scale?
Well, I think if you asked me, since I know the South African society pretty well, I worked there for 5.5 years, and I know what ardent Christianity is like. I would sympathize. I think I am. I would sympathize with the fact that since they believe in their religion, allowed in missionary activity, he really genuinely thinks that he's helping you, which is false, but he really means well from his perspective. Even when I was in Johannesburg, once a week before Easter, some Christian came over to me and wanted to try to explain me why Jesus is authentic. I said to him, I have one condition, though. If you quote the Old Testament incorrectly in English, I ask you to leave, because I do have a bit of a background in the Old Testament. Well, after 5 minutes, I said, just hold on, I'll bring a book of Psalms from home. You have totally misquoted the text. By the time I got back from home, the person left. But I actually purposely listened because I wanted to see what type of work they do. How do their missionary activity approach. I said to the person, I do have quite a background in Judaism, but if you really think you're going to convince me that you're right, I'll give you the floor to speak. So I think if you understand where he's coming from, but at the same time totally disagree with what he's trying to do, you'll manage, because he's human. He's doing because he thinks that what he's doing is right, and you know better, but you don't have to necessarily change him. At the same time, you have to be very careful not that he would influence you. And I think if you come from a position that you're not showing hatred towards him and antagonism, just let him say what he wants to, but you know where you are, I think he'll manage well. Because these guys, especially in South, Dan, it's even more than that. They feel a bit insecure when somebody who came from their own religion leaves. So indirectly, they're asking, well, maybe he's got something true also. And that's part of their getting upset, because all of a sudden they see somebody who's brought up in their culture and leaves it. Indirectly, it also threatens their secure position. They are sure that everybody starts with them is going to carry on that. In that sense, it's you're more problematic for them than I am, because you started in their direction, so to speak.
Anybody else have any questions for the rabbis? I'm not getting any clear questions on the chat rooms.
Yes, Lara wants to ask. This will be the last question for tonight. Please, Lara. Lara, we got stuck with Ardoan another 4 years, I think, no? Yes, but we can't hear you. Please, Lara.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I have been dealing with Christians for over 7 years now. And the best way that I found out, the best way to handle their violent, obnoxious, and downright disgusting insults is to arm yourself with knowledge. Number one, the more we understand the Torah, the more we understand where their reality has been warped and where they are making mistakes and where they're coming from. And secondly, the 2-volume books that Rabbi Tovia Singer has published, Let's Get Biblical. If you want to speak to Christians and if you want to tell them where things has gone wrong, inside it shows verse by verse how they modify the Torah and Tanakh, and how they put it in New Testament as warped knowledge. You can study this, and when you're having arguments with them, you will instantly know where they're coming from, how they learn things wrongly. And when you understand where the wrong is, you can correct that. But I agree with everyone, it is a very erosive, emotionally very erosive process to deal with Christians. With Muslims, it's even worse. But when you arm yourself with knowledge, then it kind of makes you more patient. I have suffered from similar things that you guys have been talking about. When I left the church, I was literally the devil in their eyes. And the entire community excommunicated me. And I have become one of the loneliest people in the world. I'm sure a lot of you are feeling the same way. But when you take a step back and understand where they're coming from, and you can battle with it with more patience if you choose to do so. I prefer not to have any communications with them at all, unless they come to me with a question. Thank you.
Thank
Well
you,
said.
Laura. Appreciate it and everything you're doing out there. But one thing I appreciate today is Rabbi Hirschler saying "here" and "here," H-E-R-E versus H-E-A-R, and we need to realize, if they may be hearing you, but are they here in the conversation? Just weighing that out at the moment, and I find the best conversations with people are ones where you actually connect and both parties are present, and not just accounted for, but present mentally and verbally, and there's got to have some degree of connection. And I find so many times the idolatrous religions just sour everything. They don't want any message that countermands theirs, and so sour it is a weapon that they do that distorts and twists. And you don't know, like when you're going on a destination, you're following a roadmap and you know what direction to go. But when you're dealing with some of these conversations, they want to create new roads and distort and twist it in directions that are from left field, right field, and out of bounds all over the place, and it provokes emotional response. And sometimes the only answer seems to just disengage emotionally, but we're human beings, and we're not made that way. But I want to thank Rabbi Goldberg for sharing the depth of part of Genesis 31. Rabbi, are we going to have more of Genesis 31 next week?
We will finish this chapter and we will continue on to the next chapter. We're going to continue on with Genesis to learn, the insights of life.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful material. I mean, it's, I don't try to be an argumentative person or a combative person, but I'm not one to shy away from, the in-your-face antagonism. And sometimes if they provoke, I'll step up. But I still like how Rabbi Hirschler said last week about how authenticity has some merit over kindness, and sadly, even in Christianity, some of their best teachers always try to teach integrity and character development. And that, you need to say to yourself, is really a sign that they didn't have an honest transformation to begin with, because they have to develop it. And that seems to be the way Hashem has designed a lot of nature for human beings, is we've got to grow and we've got to develop. And I know I have so much room to grow myself, but there are just certain things that are too in my face that I'll have to stand up for. It just seems to be the path I get stuck on, no matter what. Though I don't like to be combative, I always get stuck in that role that has to stand up. And, I'm not afraid to do so if need be. And maybe it's a little, maybe too zealous, but I'm thankful for the wisdom of Hashem and the light of Torah, especially shining out of the nation of Israel. And Rabbi Goldberg, I am so grateful for everything you're sharing. So
welcome. You're all welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
we're so glad to have Scotty join us in the Zoom room today. Scotty, so good to see you, buddy. It's been a while, but glad to have you here today. And that link I gave you is permanent. That's the one we use for this class every week. Get you right in. Everybody with us in the Zoom meeting from around the globe, Bart and Angela and Mike and Lara and Angelica. It's always a joy, but I'm on my way. I've got to meet Angelica and her husband with my wife in about 45 minutes. We're going out for a meeting. She needs more copies of Brit Shalom, so she's handing them out. So I'm bringing her some more copies. So we'll sign out for today, Rabbi.
Yes. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great week.
All the
And see
best.
you all next week. Yes.
All right, folks. So that's our Genesis class for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Feel free to like that video stream on YouTube. Feel free to share it on social media. Thanks for people joining us on Facebook as well. So till next week, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye for now.